Last video, we learned how to make the robot move using the motor blocks. This video, we're going to learn how to use loops and switches to control how the robot does things. The loop block does exactly what its name says. It loops. If there's some code you want to repeat multiple times, you could write it again and again, like this. Or you could use a loop block to do all the work for you. In this example, we want the robot to move forward, turn left, move backward, and then turn right, and do that 3 times. In case you're wondering how I made the blocks continue over here, you can use data wires to connect them and make your code look a lot cleaner. Anyways, a much quicker way to do this is to just drag a loop block in, copy the code that you want to repeat, put it into the loop block, delete the rest of the code, and then just repeat it how many times you want. So here we want to repeat it 3 times because originally there were 3 copies of the code. So we just do that. And it's that easy. You can also control the loop block in many different ways. A lot of these basically just repeat the code until a condition is met. And that's really useful for doing other things. When you work with a robot, there will be times where you wish the robot was smart enough to make decisions. Sadly, the robot doesn't have a brain. Though maybe one day, you won't need to do any of this. The robot will do it by itself. You can make the robot make decisions, sort of. Using the switch block, you can make the robot check for something, and do one thing if it happens, and another if it doesn't. The switch block, like the loop block, is in the orange block section. What the switch block does is check for a condition, and if it's successful, it does one thing. If it's unsuccessful, it does another. In the options area, you can customize what condition the switch will look for. Here, I'm going to use the button option to check if the middle button is pressed. The area with the check is where you put code that you want to happen if the condition is met. So if the middle button is pressed, I'm going to make the robot move forward. The bottom code with the X is where you put a code that you want to run if the condition isn't met. In this case, I don't want the robot to do anything if the button isn't pressed. I'm not going to put anything there. In the example you see over here, the switch block is checking to see if the middle button is pressed. And if it is pressed, the robot will move forward 1 rotation. If it doesn't, the robot will do nothing. Why don't we test that out? So now when I press the middle button, the robot should move 1 rotation forward. That's weird. Nothing happened. That's because I haven't told you one extremely important thing about using switch blocks. The important thing I didn't tell you about switch blocks is that they only run 1 time. What does that mean? In the example I just showed you, the switch block only ran the moment the program started. Since the button wasn't being pressed the moment the program started, nothing happened. When I pressed the button, it had already been a few seconds since the program started, so the switch block wasn't running anymore. The way to make the switch block keep checking is to put it in a loop. So if you put it in a loop and you have the loop running infinitely, so unlimited, then the switch block will keep checking to see if you press the button. So now when I press the button, let's see what happens. Alright, now when I press the middle button, the robot should move forward 1 rotation. And if I press it again, the switch block is still detecting, so it's going to keep moving forward. Now I'm sure you're asking me, what if you want to run code after the switch? Since it's in a loop that runs forever, you'll never get to code after it. The solution to that is the loop interrupt block. What the loop interrupt block does is, once the code is run, once it reaches the loop interrupt block, it breaks out of the loop. So once I press the button and it moves forward 1 rotation, it'll see this block and it'll break out of the loop and you can run any code after that. Now that you know how the loop and switch blocks work, here's a challenge for you.
Write a program that makes the robot move forward until you press the left button. Once you press that, make the robot spin forever. Remember that you need to use loop blocks to make the switches keep running. Also, whatever code is in the bottom of the switch will keep running while the condition isn't met. You might need to use more than one loop for this. Here's how the program should run when you're done. Good luck, and I'll see you in the next video.